And I can't thank you enough for all you've done so far, and that's thank you for taking the time for watching today. Look, one of the things I think is important, I wish we taught more in our schools about the Islamic faith. I wish we talked about all the great confessional faiths. It's one of the great confessional faiths. And what people don't realize, it's one of my avocation is theology, don't realize is that we all come from the same root here in terms of our fundamental basic beliefs. And I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity, for being engaged, for committing to action this November. You're doing what's that's never been done before. You're registering and turning out 1 million Muslim voters this November. It matters. Your voice is your vote. Your vote is your voice. Muslim Americans' voices matter to our communities, to our country, but we all know that your voice hasn't always gotten recognized or represented and or the recognition it deserves. And that's your right as a citizen. You know, what you're doing is making a real difference. I mean that. Look, this weekend I lost a friend, but we lost a champion for civil rights of all people, a tireless advocate for making sure every single person could access the power of their vote, the great Congressman John Lewis. You know, from the time he first marched with Dr. King until his last march last month with Black Lives Matter, he understood viscerally that the rights and freedoms of all people are connected. We're all connected. And no one is free while other people are oppressed. You know, it was no surprise that when Donald Trump announced the Muslim ban during his first week in office, John went directly to Hartsfield International Airport in his home district in Atlanta to demand answers of immigration officials. They wouldn't tell him how many people were being detained. You know what his answer was? Simply, quote, "Why don't we just sit down and stay a while," end of quote. As always, John Lewis knew where to stand or to sit to be on the right side of history. And the best way to honor John's legacy is to continue his purpose, continue his commitment to making it easier for every American to cast their ballot and participate in our democracy. In memory of John, Congress should make up legislation take up the legislation to restore the Voting Rights Act. The legislation he fought so courageously for. They should take it up immediately. And if they don't, I'll make sure it happens at the beginning of my administration. Look, Mr. Chairman, I don't have to tell any of you that this is the most important election in modern American history. Muslim communities were the first to feel Donald Trump's assault on black and brown communities in this country with his vile Muslim ban. That fight was the opening barrage in what has been nearly 4 years of constant pressure and insults and attacks against Muslim American communities, Latino communities, black communities, AAPI communities, Native Americans. You know, Donald Trump has fanned the flames of hate in this country across the board through his words, his policies, his appointments, his deeds, and he continues to fan those flames. Under this administration, we've seen an unconscionable rise in Islamophobia, the incidents including kids being bullied in school and hate crimes in our communities. He's named people with a history of open Islamophobia, open, straightforward, who have no business serving in high positions in our government, to key leadership roles in our Department of Defense, the U.S. Agency for International Development. He's not only an insult to our values, it weakens our standing in the world. What message does this send to the rest of the world? We have led the world not just by the example of our power, but the power of our example. And he's making a mockery of what we stand for. But we can do something about it. And I'm here today to ask you to join me in a fight to rip this poison from our government root and stem, or as the famous case said, root and branch, starting by making Donald Trump a one-term president this November. But I'm not just asking for your support because the alternative is unthinkable. I want to earn your vote, not just because he's not worthy of being president. I want to work in partnership with you to make sure your voices are included in the decision-making process as we work to rebuild our nation. We can't just build back to where we were before Donald Trump took office. We have to build back better. And right now, we're facing a trio of urgent crises in this nation. A public health crisis, as this pandemic is heading in the wrong direction. An economic crisis, with millions of Americans out of work and small businesses struggling to survive. And a racial justice crisis, a long overdue national reckoning about the way our country has treated blacks, browns, Native Americans, and I know Muslim Americans feel that too, especially black Muslims. You know, these come on top of a looming climate crisis, deep-seated economic inequities that have too long divided this country, rewarding those at the very top while working class folks have to work harder and harder just to stay where they are. You know, there's not a single one of these issues where Muslim Americans don't have a critical stake in our ability to deliver solutions and real results. There's not one of these issues where Muslim Americans aren't essential to our success. From Muslim medical professionals to frontline workers who are fighting around the clock to beat back this virus, risking their own health in the process, to the Muslim small business owners who are the pillars of their community, but have worried about how to keep their doors open. The Muslim CEOs who are keeping people on the job and keeping our country running, like Pioneer Service outside of Chicago, which retooled during COVID-19 from making auto parts to manufacturing ventilators. And to the Muslims who have suffered abuse and discrimination or worse because of their faith, the color of their skin, and those working to advance social justice every single day. To all those Muslims who have served in the United States military, who have committed to do so and continue to do so today. I'll be a president who recognizes and honors your contributions. And these contributions go back, by the way, to our founding. I'll be a president who seeks out and listens to and incorporates the ideas and concerns of Muslim Americans on everyday issues that matter most to our communities. That will include having Muslim American voices as part of my administration. If I have the honor of being president, I will end the Muslim ban on day one. Day one. And I'll work with Congress to pass hate crimes legislation like the Jabbar Hire No Hate Act, and end racial and religious the End Racial and Religious Profiling Act. I'll be focused on issues that matter to all Americans: getting the virus under control, addressing health disparities, working to expand access to affordable, high-quality health care by protecting and building on Obamacare with a public option. And I promise you I'll make historic investments to revitalize our economy by strengthening American manufacturing and the supply chains, and by making sure American workers have an opportunity to join a union and earn a real living wage. I work to make sure that all our children are prepared and equipped to succeed in the 21st century. An economy has to change and get better by making critical investments in our teachers and our schools. We're going to triple the funding for schools in low-income areas. We're not going to leave schools and child centers on their own to figure out how to keep educators and students safe during a pandemic. And we're going to restore American leadership around the world, starting by putting our democratic values and our diplomacy at the center of our foreign policy again. You know, I won't be writing any love letters to dictators. And I won't fail to speak out against the abuses of human rights, including targeting for violence and prosecution of Muslim minorities around the world. I have, and I'll continue to speak out for the Uyghurs and Rohingya. I'll work to close those god-awful policies. I'll work to close in close cooperation with our partners to meet the moral demands of a humanitarian crisis in Syria, Yemen, and Gaza. And I'll continue to champion the rights of Palestinians and Israelis to have a state of their own, as I have for decades, each of them a state of their own. But we're not going to be able to do any of this if we don't win in November. That's why this event and your involvement is so critical. We can't afford anyone to stay in the sidelines and sit this election out. We need you. I need you. I need you to mobilize and motivate one another to register to vote, to make a plan for how to vote safely in November. Make it now. To talk to all your friends and families. to engage colleagues from your mosque and your community centers, to get them engaged as well. Hadith from the Prophet Muhammad instructs, whomever among you sees a wrong, let him change it with his hand. If he is not able, then with his tongue. If he is not able, then with his heart. So many of you are living this teaching in your own communities every day, joining your faith and your principles with the American principles that are consistent, actions that take and make life better for your families, for your neighbors, through service, advocacy work, and preaching peace. You deserve to have a president and an administration who will work with you and support you in these efforts, not try to scapegoat your communities or advance xenophobic political agenda on the back of Muslim communities. And if I have the honor of being elected President of the United States, together we can work to right the wrongs and see our world and see it better with our hearts, with our hands, with our votes. So again, Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. Thank you so, so very much. And may peace be upon you.